Have you ever looked across the breakfast table at the person you once couldn't live without and wondered, when did we become strangers? If that question hits close to home, don't scroll away. Go ahead and hit that like button so more couples can find this message of hope. Because what we're about to share could be the turning point for marriages that feel like they're quietly fading away. Maybe you're a husband who's noticed your wife seems miles away, even when she's sitting right next to you. Or perhaps you're a wife who feels like you're carrying the weight of the world and no one seems to notice. The truth is, millions of long-term marriages are quietly suffocating, not from dramatic fights, but from the slow, silent drift of emotional distance. Today, we'll uncover the 5 hidden reasons why so many women in long-term marriages grow distant, resentful, or emotionally worn out as the years go by. And more importantly, we'll explore practical, heartfelt ways to rebuild the connection you once shared. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding, healing, and rediscovering the love that brought you together in the first place. So whether you're a worried husband, a wife who's aching, or simply someone who wants to protect your marriage from this silent drift, stay with us. What you learn here could transform your relationship. Reason 1. The invisible leak of emotional fuel. Imagine marriage at the start. It's like setting off on a road trip in a brand new car, full tank, windows down, laughter filling the air. You talk about dreams, fears, and silly stories. You notice each other's moods, ask questions, and remember the little things that make your partner feel truly seen. But over the years, life gets busy. Work deadlines, kids' activities, aging parents, and endless to-do lists creep in. Conversations shrink to logistics. Did you pick up the milk? What time's your doctor's appointment? Who's paying the electric bill? Without realizing it, couples slip into autopilot. The engine of emotional intimacy sputters, not because of a blowout, but because of tiny, unnoticed leaks over decades. For women, this is especially devastating. Emotional neglect doesn't come with sirens or warning signs. There's no betrayal, no screaming match, just the quiet, steady absence of curiosity. The man who used to ask, "How was your day?" now only asks, "What's for dinner?" Patricia, 70, shared her story with me over coffee. "He's never been cruel," she said, "never yelled, never cheated. But the last time he asked how I felt about anything, felt our youngest still needed a booster seat. That was over 30 years ago." Her words hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. Emotional neglect rarely looks like villainy. It's simply the slow fading of curiosity about the person you promised to cherish. Think back to your early days. Remember how you'd study each other's faces, notice when something was off, and ask questions. Not because you had to, but because you wanted to? Somewhere along the way, those questions stopped. Deep conversations were replaced by schedules and reminders. Emotional check-ins disappeared. For women, this creates a deep sense of invisibility, not because they're mistreated, but because they're no longer truly seen. And when someone feels invisible for years, something inside them begins to close off. If Patricia's story resonates, drop "still" here in the comments. Your voice helps us reach more couples who need this message. But here's the good news. Emotional neglect can be reversed. It doesn't require therapy or grand gestures. It starts with simple, genuine curiosity. When a husband looks at his wife and asks, "What's on your mind today?" and listens, he's already begun to repair what's been lost. When a woman finally says, "You haven't seen me in years," it's not a complaint. It's a plea for connection. She's saying, "I'm still here. I still matter. Please don't let me disappear." Reason 2, the half-century balancing act. Picture 2 acrobats on a seesaw, balancing with skill and communication. Now imagine that seesaw gets stuck. One side is always heavier, one person lifting more. For many couples who married in the 1970s or 80s, this is exactly what happened. The seesaw of responsibility froze. He brought home the paycheck, made the big decisions, while she balanced everything else. Meals, schoolwork, holidays, elder care, emotional labor, and eventually her career when needed. 40 years later, that tilt feels heavier than any weight she could lift. The real pain isn't just the workload, it's the invisibility. Society celebrates the breadwinner and takes the life manager for granted. Dad gets praised for helping with dinner. Mom's daily orchestration goes unnoticed. He gets credit for working late. She's expected to work late at home every night. Diane, 68, put it bluntly as we sat in her spotless living room. "I'm not angry that he needs me," she said, straightening a coaster. "I'm angry he never realized I needed him too. Not just to fix things, but to notice when I was drowning, to care that I was tired." When gratitude is missing, generosity curdles into resentment. Every unwashed dish becomes a scorecard. Every forgotten anniversary becomes proof of being taken for granted. Every "what's for dinner" is a reminder that your life's work has been reduced to a service. The psychological toll isn't just exhaustion, it's erasure. Consider a typical day for many women. Wake early, prepare breakfast, manage routines, work a full day, often fielding family calls. Come home to a second shift of household management, coordinate everyone's schedules, provide emotional support, and fall into bed mentally cataloging tomorrow's tasks. Meanwhile, her husband's day ends when he leaves the office. He comes home to a managed household, a planned dinner, and the luxury of helping out when convenient. After decades, a woman begins to feel like hired help, not a cherished partner. The woman who once felt like an equal now feels like the invisible infrastructure that keeps everyone else's dreams running. But here's what many men don't realize. This imbalance isn't usually malicious. It develops gradually, shaped by generational patterns and practical decisions that made sense at the time. The husband who helps out instead of co-owning responsibilities isn't trying to be unfair. He may simply be repeating what he saw growing up. By the time couples reach their 60s and 70s, these patterns feel impossible to change. She's tired of asking for help. He's confused about her unhappiness. If you see this in your marriage, comment "balance" below. Naming the problem is the first step towards solving it. But awareness can create change, even after decades. It starts with a conversation, not about blame, but about moving forward. It begins when a husband says, "I want to understand how you feel about our responsibilities," and then when he follows understanding with action. True partnership isn't about keeping score. It's about both people feeling valued. When that happens, even decades of imbalance can shift towards something more loving. Reason 3, retirement, the great volume knob. Retirement is supposed to be the golden reward for decades of hard work, the time when couples finally get to enjoy each other's company without the distractions of careers and kids. But for many, retirement becomes something unexpected, the great volume knob that amplifies every crack in the relationship. When children leave and offices stop calling, the house grows quiet. With that quiet, the background noise that once masked problems vanishes. Suddenly, emotional static grows loud. Rose, 73, described this with heartbreaking clarity. Surrounded by the plants she'd tended for decades, she said, "I thought empty nest evenings would mean coffee chats and long walks. I pictured us finally having time to talk, to dream together." Her voice softened. "Instead, I got news anchors and crossword puzzles. I sit 3 feet away from him every evening, and I feel 1,000 miles apart. The silence I thought would be peaceful feels suffocating." This is the irony of many long-term marriages. The quiet that should bring couples closer often reveals how far apart they've drifted. When couples retire, they're suddenly face-to-face with the relationship they've built, not the one they imagined. Careers and kids once provided structure and the illusion of connection. "We're a team," they'd say. "We're managing all this together." But retirement strips away those validations. What remains is the raw relationship. Two people who may be experts at managing a household, but novices at simply being together. For many women, this is jarring. They've spent decades being needed. Family managers, emotional caretakers, social coordinators. In retirement, when those roles fade, they wonder, who am I to him when I'm not managing his life? The answer, tragically, is often invisible. Men, especially those from generations that didn't prioritize emotional expression, often mistake silence for serenity. They assume no conflict means all is well. They settle into routines, morning news, afternoon projects, evening TV, unaware their wives are starving for connection. True peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of intimacy. Margaret, 71, shared her story. We went on a weekend trip for our 45th anniversary. Beautiful hotel, lovely restaurant, no interruptions. I thought, finally we'll talk. Instead, he spent dinner checking his phone for sports scores. We sat across from each other for 2 hours and shared maybe 5 minutes of real conversation. I came home and cried for 3 days. The loneliness of being emotionally disconnected from your partner, especially when you have all the time in the world, can be more isolating than being alone. Pause now and hit subscribe to Elderly Active Life. We're here every day with fresh perspectives and practical strategies for thriving after 60. Your subscription helps us reach more couples who need this message. But here's the hope. Retirement is also the greatest opportunity for rebuilding intimacy. With fewer demands, couples can rediscover each other, have conversations they've postponed, explore new interests, and finally prioritize their relationship. Emotional intimacy, like fitness, requires effort. You can't coast on the connection you built in your 20s and expect it to last into your 70s. But with awareness and effort, retirement can become the chapter where love deepens, not diminishes. Reason 4, decades of unnoticed sacrifice. If there's one thing that can quietly poison a woman's heart, it's the sense that her sacrifices have become invisible, essential, but completely taken for granted. Humans need recognition, not trophies, but simple acknowledgement. A nod that says, "I see what you've done. I know it mattered." When that recognition is absent for years, the giver begins to feel not just unappreciated, but erased. Think of Geraldine, now 74, who put her nursing career on hold to raise twins at 24. I was 3 months from graduating from nursing school when I got pregnant. Everyone said, "You can always go back later." Later became never. For the next 20 years, I raised those boys, managed the household, and kept the books for his business. When he won that big contract, the paper interviewed him. He never mentioned me, not the nights I stayed up balancing accounts, not the client dinners I organized, not the years I kept things running so he could build his dream. The world thanked him for his success. Nobody thanked me for the scaffolding. When lifelong effort fades into background noise, even gestures of love can feel hollow. The romantic dinner feels meaningless when the woman preparing it hasn't heard a genuine thank you in months. The surprise gift feels empty when it's not accompanied by recognition. This isn't about wives needing constant praise. It's about needing to feel seen for their contributions. Their sacrifices were choices made out of love, not expectations. The psychological term is invisible labor. All the thinking, planning, and caring that keep families running, but rarely get recognized. The mental load of appointments, relationships, inventories, and emotional support, so seamless it becomes invisible. Linda, 68, spent 40 years supporting her husband's career while raising 3 kids and managing their home. He traveled for work, came home to clean clothes and plan meals. He got to be the fun parent. I was the one handling homework and discipline. Now the kids call him for good news and I when they need something fixed. I don't regret supporting his dreams. I regret he never asked about mine. Resentment doesn't come from needing praise. It comes from needing to matter. But a single sentence can begin to heal decades of feeling invisible. I was thinking today about everything you've done for our family, and I want you to know I couldn't have built this life without you. Or, I know you gave up your career for us, and I've never properly thanked you. Or, while I was building my career, you were building our family, and your work was just as important. If you realize you've taken someone's contributions for granted, comment "grateful" below. Recognition starts with awareness. It's never too late for acknowledgement. A woman hearing genuine thanks for her life's work can feel her entire sense of self shift. The scaffolding she built deserves celebration. Reason 5, awakening to new desires. Something remarkable happens in many women's 7th decade. They stop apologizing for wanting more. After decades focused on others, raising children, supporting husbands, caring for parents, many women experience an awakening. They begin to rediscover their voices, needs, and dreams. Barbara, 71, described this shift. For 50 years, I asked everyone else what they wanted for dinner, where they wanted to go, what made them comfortable. 6 months ago, I realized I couldn't remember the last time anyone asked me what I wanted. She paused. And I didn't know how to answer. I'd forgotten who I was beneath all the roles I played. This rediscovery comes with clarity about relationships. Women begin to ask, is this marriage nourishing my soul? Barbara continued, I wanted warmth, laughter, eye contact. If I couldn't find those things in my marriage, I was ready to build that life for myself, not as a threat, but as what I deserved. This isn't abandonment, it's evolution. Many women are no longer terrified of solitude, they're terrified of loneliness next to someone else. This awakening often coincides with practical changes, children grown, careers winding down, and financial security. For the first time in decades, women can prioritize their well-being. The result? Women develop healthy boundaries. They stop accepting draining behavior. They start requesting the partnership they need. They become willing to make changes if their needs are ignored. This can bewilder husbands who thought everything was fine. The wife who never complained now has expectations. The partner who seemed content now wants deep conversation and intimacy. Some men respond with curiosity and growth. Others resist, preferring the predictable wife to the authentic woman. Teresa, 72, said, when I started expressing my preferences, he got angry. He said I was changing the rules. But I wasn't changing the rules. I was finally admitting I never agreed to play by those rules. Relationships either grow together or apart. When one partner evolves and the other remains static, the gap widens. But if both partners embrace growth, the marriage can become richer than ever. Growth isn't betrayal. It's the natural progression of a life fully lived. When both partners support each other's evolution, they don't just stay married, they stay in love. The path back to us, practical steps for rebuilding connection. If you recognize your marriage in these stories, take heart. Awareness is the first step toward healing. Even relationships that have drifted apart for decades can find their way back. Big gestures are optional, but small, consistent signals are non-negotiable. Here's your roadmap. 1. The daily temperature check. Each evening, ask one genuine question. What colored your mood today? Listen without trying to fix, just understand. 2. Shared microtasks. Do small household tasks together. Fold laundry, prep dinner, walk the dog, and reminisce about early adventures. These moments become opportunities for connection. 3. Gratitude out loud. End each night by sharing one thing you noticed and appreciated about your partner. Be specific. 4. Monthly memory walks. Once a month, revisit a place that holds happy memories. Actively remember together. Share what you felt then and now. 5. The 5-minute rule. When your partner shares something important, give 5 minutes of undivided attention. No phones, no TV, just presence. 6th weekly emotional inventory. Set aside time each week to ask, how are we doing? What's working? What could we improve? Prevent small issues from becoming big resentments. 7. The appreciation reset. If you've taken your partner for granted, start with acknowledgement. List 3 sacrifices they've made for the family and thank them. Over time, these small stitches can mend enormous tears. The goal isn't perfection, it's presence. A message of hope to the husbands. If you see your wife in these stories, don't retreat into defensiveness. The fact that you're here means you care. That's the foundation for everything else. Your wife doesn't need perfection. She needs you to be present, to see her, to be curious, and to be grateful. To the wives, your feelings are valid. The loneliness, the resentment, the sense of being taken for granted, these are natural responses to unmet needs. You deserve to be seen and cherished. To all couples, your story isn't finished. The distance you feel now doesn't have to define your future. With awareness, effort, and commitment, even marriages that feel lost can be reborn. The next chapter is still being written, and it can be beautiful. If you learned even one strategy today that could help rebuild closeness, like this video, share it with a couple you care about, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our daily uploads here on Elderly Active Life. Take action today. Ask that genuine question. Share that gratitude. Look your partner in the eyes and see them. Somewhere in that person across from you is the same person you once couldn't wait to see every day. They're still there, and they're still worth fighting for. Thank you for spending your precious time with us. Until tomorrow, keep choosing love, keep choosing growth, and keep choosing each other.